and he's the most dangerous man in Parliament.
Well, I don't think you could have picked a better word than circus, because what we're going to talk about now is a circus.
The Labour Party would-be deputy leader of the Labour Party has now gone on record confirming the cover-up. And it's clear what our motives are. I care about children. I care about my country.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. This episode's amazing and returning guest, good friend of mine, Miah. How you doing, Raja?
I'm well, Nick. Parliament's back, and the circus is back in town, as they say. Yeah, so here we go.
Well, I don't think you could have picked a better word than circus, because what we're going to talk about now is a circus. So we all know Jess Phillips, Minister for Safeguarding Women and Girls, supposed to have launched a grooming gang review to really investigate what went on and who covered it up, and a proper investigation she's supposed to have launched. Rupert Lowe MP, who I admire, I think is probably the best MP in the House, and that's because he's not affiliated now to any party. He can do what he wants. He's asked some questions, and Jess Phillips has had to announce and admit, this grooming gang inquiry, we haven't done anything. We've had 5 months and we've not even appointed a chair. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think context for Jess Phillips, in January, she stood up, in October last year, she wrote to my town, Oldham, and said there's no need for a national inquiry. So that's her starting point. She'd sat on a letter, waited for months before responding, said, local reviews are all you need. So that's her starting point as a Minister for Safeguarding Girls. She started there. Most recently, you and I spoke, and I exposed how Jess Phillips had stood in Parliament and claimed she knew about it for 14 years. So that's the contradiction there. How dare she write back to a town infested with these grooming gangs and say there's no need for a statutory inquiry where you live when you've known about the cover-up and all of it for 14 years. So that's the background. In January, Yvette Cooper and Jess Phillips tried to front these local reviews without statutory powers. We were having none of it. The pressure intensified, and in June, they backtracked and confirmed a national inquiry. So in June, they confirmed the national inquiry. And in September, so the summer recess came, she marched in just before the summer recess, made her excuses and ran back out. So that's what she's been doing all along. September came along, there was another round of pressure, and it was September the 2nd, she made her announcements, and it was that they were in the final stages, completely victim-centered, and no stone would be left unturned. And those are her exact quotes. I'm throwing back at you, Nick. And we thought, okay, well, if it's September the 2nd, Parliament's just come back in and said at final stages, the national inquiry will be any day now. It'll be announced, and all we're waiting for is the chair. Rupert Lowe, who has raised £600,000 and is powering ahead with his own rape gang inquiry. It's rough and ready, I'd say, and it's not as thorough and as formulaic as I'd like it, and I sit on it, but it's doing good work, it's progressing, and he's wrote to her, and she wrote back. And I said to you last time, every time she opens her mouth or every time she issues a statement, she makes it worse for herself. And she's just made it worse for herself. Now, Rupert's written back and said, you've just said no progress. How dare you? I want to know everything. Yeah. And he's this morning put a motion in, and he's asking for other MPs to sign it, which is condemning. Because he's free, isn't he? He can say or do what he wants. And he's the most dangerous man in Parliament because of that, I think, because he's equipped with the people's mandate. He's an MP, and this issue, he's demonstrated his genuine commitment to it through launching his inquiry and remain true. He gains nothing from it. This was something he first came across and thought, this can't be true. I had a conversation with him. This can't be true. Oh my good God. Like all of us, like what on earth has been happening? Now, what Jess Phillips has done Rupert's released a letter, the response she's got from her. She's actually not said no progress. It's far worse than that. She's starting to use the language of a cover-up, Nick. And because I read and analyze and I understand all of, it's my thing. I read every word and extract meaning from it.
You read everything. You read every report. You read everything. I know that about you. You read absolutely everything.
So what she's made reference to in here is she's talking about changing the language from inquiry, national inquiry, and she introduces the term independent commission. A commission is a bureaucratic exercise. It's not a national inquiry. It's very different. Why introduce the word commission into your response? It's not done. She then talks about institutions being held to account. I'm sorry, Nick. It's individuals that are held to account who manage institutions. Institutions are not held to account. So she's changed the language from no stone unturned, remember, was what she said in September. Now she's trying to caveat it by saying institutions. Well, hold on. In your response to Rupert Lowe MP, you should be saying individuals, police officers, politicians, no matter who they are, they'll all be held to account. And you might say, Raja, why are you saying that? It's, institutions, individuals, you're being too harsh. Well, her paragraph, and I've seen the paragraph and I published the paragraph, Rupert's published the paragraph. It's not his thing, it's my thing. So I've done it the way I've done it. You can see line after line the evidence of a cover up. She promises areas for review. A national inquiry does not review areas, it investigates. The language matters, the words matters. So she's talking about an independent commission. A national inquiry is not an independent commission. They know that. An independent commission is something else. She makes reference to institutions rather than individuals being held to account. She promises areas for review, not investigations. And then she describes targeted local areas. Hold on, this is a national inquiry. The word being national, a national reckoning. And we already know, she knows, if she's known for 14 years, right, she knows that these rape gangs operated across county lines, across the country. You can't contain it to one town or two towns or three towns. It's got to be a national inquiry. Now, however you develop that framework for investigation, that should be up to the chair and the terms of reference that are then, created afterwards. She cannot set out the parameters of targeted local inquiries before the chair's been appointed, before the terms of reference have been agreed, because that is demonstrating a fix. There shouldn't be targeted local inquiries. It should be a national reckoning. And then she makes it worse because she commits to reporting findings. That is not what a national inquiry does. It does not report findings. It recommends action, including prosecutions. And the final phrase, reporting actions, just does it for me. It's the language of bureaucracy. It's not the language of justice and a genuine national inquiry. So there's no ambiguity. It's what we've been fighting for a long time, Nick. So, I'm very clear on what a national inquiry should be. It exists to uncover wrongdoing and ensure that those who've committed that wrongdoing face consequences. That is what a national inquiry is. And Jess Phillips's response to Rupert Lowe actually condemns her. Now, previously, she made reference to people like me scaremongering. How can I scaremonger, Nick? All I'm doing is using the skills that the government trained me with to read their own documents, tell you what those documents mean, and how far those documents have travelled from where we were in June, where we were promised a national inquiry.
Me and you both suspected something like this was going to happen. We've had to drag this government and previous governments and other mayors and other politicians, we've had to drag them to do anything. And every time we drag them somewhere, we get them in a corner and they have to say something, they have to do something because of public pressure. They always tell us what we want to hear. And then the public mood goes down because, oh, it's being done now. But then people like me and you listen to what they say afterwards and what they do. And then we realize what they're going to do is basically just another cover up, just another way of making sure we never get to the truth because they're terrified of what they're going to find. And they just hope this works. And that's exactly what Jess Phillips is doing now. She
and yeah, yeah, absolutely. And she knows better because she's confirmed her own knowledge of the cover for 14 years. And this is why I enjoy being faced with the likes of Jess Phillips as government ministers because they're not smart. I don't mean it disrespectfully. You know, they're not political heavyweights, right? And these people have been over promoted, ridden a crest of a wave to get where they are, rather than had to, do what fight for their positions and get their own talent. They're surrounded by yes men and yes women, and they've produced that document in response to Rupert Lowe, which is, I would be sacked if I'd helped produce that. Whilst I was in that world, I'd be sacked because what she's exposed is we are en route to a cover up. And it's not my words, it's her words. It's her words. She's introduced the term independent commission. She makes reference to holding to account individuals rather than individuals. And she promises areas to review rather than investigate. She says, oh, this is independent of government. But a national inquiry cannot be independent of government. It's not possible for a national inquiry to be independent of government because only a government can commission and facilitate and implement a national inquiry. That is she's either taking us for fools or she's a fool.
Oh, I think she's taking us for fools. And I think they've calculated that 99% of the population won't understand the difference and will look at her saying, we're going to announce this inquiry and this commission. And I think most people will go, oh, we're going to get to the truth now. And as you know, these things, you haven't got a chair yet, you haven't even started yet, but when it does, it's going to take a couple of years. It will then be extended. I think the Labour line here is, we're never going to do this. We're never going to do it. We just need to muddy the water and confuse people and kick the can down the road until we get kicked out of power, because we're never going to do this.
I think it's very clear. She makes reference to a timeline of 2 to 3 years. Absolute nonsense.
They won't be here in 2 to 3 years.
Impossible. Even if they were, it's impossible to deliver a national inquiry in a timeline of 2 to 3 years. If you look at the milestones that need to be met to get to where you need to get to, and then do the actual inquiry, it's not possible. It's like, like when you have a builder come round and quote you a job and they underquote you because they have no idea of what's involved and you just send them on their way. That's what's taking place here. Jess Phillips has no understanding. And I think it's increasingly very clear. What they want is whatever the findings are, those findings are being scheduled to be after the next general election, at best.
Yeah, and I think they're going to wait for that. Yes,
and then they're hiding behind this victim-centered stuff. I've mentioned it to you before. It's not the most popular of positions I have, but I think it's important and people understand it. And I saw something that Charlie Peters of GB News has released today, where survivors are now starting to echo my position. Victim-centered, victim-led is nonsense. The victims are witnesses. They need to testify. These young women are damaged. They should not be appointing a chair. They should not, and all of that. And what's taking place here is Jess Phillips and the government are using the victims to hide behind to prevent us from scrutinizing what they are doing, to say, oh, you're attacking the victims. Of course, we've never been attacking the victims. We've been championing the victims when they didn't believe the victims. And now what we're doing is we don't want the victims to be used as a human shield. And Jess Phillips and the Labour government are trying to use victims as a human shield. There should not be a victims panel that appoints the chair. What sort of training have got these victims, survivors got in recruitment? You know, and I know what's going on. They're being played, they're being pandered to, and they're being used to try and shut down legitimate scrutiny. And the survivors themselves are starting to see beyond it. They are being used. It's shameful. At every level, it's shameful. At every stage of this, it's shameful.
How can you personally criticise the future chair of this panel when the government tells you this chair was picked by survivors? It gives them this protection cloak that anytime you attack their investigation, their commission, they just turn around and say, "This is what the survivors wanted. This is what the survivors picked." And we know they got men and women in suits to sit down with broken people and tell them, this is who you need to pick for these reasons, and they manipulated them because they are victims and they are broken, and they've manipulated them to protect the politicians and protect the people who abused them in the first place. This is horrendous on many levels.
And what you've it's the equivalent of, it is. I when I looked at it and reflected, it's like Hamas setting up, bases in hospitals. That's what the government is doing. It's parallel. It's that equivalent. And I where are we? We're in a position where Rupert Lowe has put forward a motion. Let's see how many MPs sign it. You should, by the way, contact your, I'm saying this to you, those who listen to you. You should contact your MP and just ask them, will you be signing Rupert Lowe's motion regarding the rape gang inquiry? It's a very straightforward one. It's a question to Jess Phillips. Your MP has to say yes or no. It's a simple yes or no. So we then know. And in the background, what's taking place is more and more politicians are getting uncomfortable with this, Nick, because it's not going away. You've got people like me and you've got more and more people. And every time I look on X or the news, I smile because there's more and more people. I was at an event in London a couple of weeks ago. To the left of me was a baroness. To the right of me was a human rights lawyer, all on the same page. It's changed. We've got the nation with us. We've got, this isn't some skinhead waving marching down the street shouting about rape gangs. This is the educated people who say, no, this is a national shame. It's an injustice, and it's a reckoning that needs to be had. And what's took place is, at the same time as all of this, is the Labour Party deputy leader fight between Bridget and Lucy Powell, my former MP, your former MP, I think Lucy Powell. And Lucy Powell recently has given an interview apologizing for dog whistle remarks. But the focus of that interview for me, the important bit for that interview for me, is she admits to the cover-up. She acknowledges the cover-up and confirms that those involved in the cover-up, and she distinguishes the cover-up from those who aided and abetted, to those who looked the other way, and those who helped cover it up. So that she's got 3 layers there at least of what cover-up looks like. She wants them prosecuted. The Labour Party, would-be deputy leader of the Labour Party, has now gone on record confirming the cover-up. Now, I am exhausted, and people who see me, they'll say, Roger, you look deflated. It's tiring, Nick. This is exhausting work. But if we don't do it, it will go. The pressure has come from the public, and we amplify the public mood and we educate the public, because what we're doing is very different to a newspaper. Because here today, gone tomorrow, very different to a news story on GB News where they put on, survive and you feel sorry for them. What we're in the business of, and it's the business of accountability. And we're forcing a reckoning of a kind this country has never seen before. And that's a direct consequence of independent media platforms like yours, spaces like this, X, Facebook. Use them all, people. And keep sharing our stories, because we are winning. We've just forced the would-be deputy leader of the Labour Party admit to a cover-up, and that her own colleagues should be prosecuted who were involved in the cover-up. And that includes, she's a Manchester MP. On one side, she's got my MP, Jim McMahon, and the other side you got the Greater Manchester man, Andy Burnham, both through their reports and both through their actions in Oldham. Andy Burnham wrote an email to me. You'll have seen it on or posted on X, a statement where he claimed I'm misinforming the public. I've challenged him, Nick, many times, and I'll challenge him again.
And did he outline how you're misinforming the public?
No. But he used the official Greater Manchester Combined Authority Mayor account to put out a statement where he named me and said I'm misinforming the public. Well, how am I misinforming the public? Your deputy leader, your want-to-be deputy leader has now confirmed the cover-up.
Yeah, I want to know how you're misleading the public. That's 101 when you challenge somebody, is you tell them what they're doing wrong and why they're wrong. Just saying someone is wrong and then running away isn't a legitimate form of telling someone they're incorrect.
But it shows, Nick, it shows they're worried. If they're randomly replying, using the official accounts to reply to, little Roger Miah on X, yeah, I'm on record. Sue me, arrest me, prosecute me. I'll sue in whichever court you want, because I will quantify how you are involved in the cover-up. Because first and foremost, I will define what a cover-up is in its various guises, and I will demonstrate in a court of law what exactly you have done that meets the definition of a cover-up. You're playing with the wrong guy here. Because I'm formulaic, I'm systematic, and we're 7 years in, Nick.
And we've pushed them to a place, especially you and other people, and this isn't just me and you, and it isn't, it's more you than me.
Movement. It's a movement of us.
It's a movement. People who've been going on about this for 15 years, even if you only attend street demonstrations, all those people collectively have pushed the political elite to where they are now, to such an extent that the mayor of Greater Manchester, who seems untouchable as a political figure, he now is having to, on social media, name you and say you're wrong. Doesn't explain it, but he says you're wrong because people must be saying to him all the time, what about Roger Miah? What about Roger Miah? So he wanted to put that out there for his followers to go, oh, Andy Burnham said it's not true, and I'll believe Andy Burnham. Then we look at the Lucy Powell. A few months ago, she was saying that anybody who said anything like she has just said this week was a far-right racist and was using dog whistle politics. In a couple of months, we flipped her whole belief system within the Labour Party. And don't get me wrong, I think the true Lucy Powell was a couple of months ago. I don't think she believes a word she's saying now.
I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100%. Yeah, 100%. But look what we've made her say. Yeah, look what we've made it, because I can now quote that and I think she'll win the deputy leadership. The deputy leader of the Labour Party agrees that there was a cover-up and people were involved in that cover-up, and those people should be prosecuted. She can only be speaking about her friends in the Labour Party.
Roger, you're a racist Nazi. Oh, wait a minute. The deputy leader, who could also be deputy prime minister at some point, has said it. You're just repeating her. That's where we're getting to now, where we're just using their words against them because they don't know what to do, because we've never had this sort of social media before, where before it'd be one day bad headline and they would panic for the day and say things. It'd be tomorrow's chip paper the next day.
Nick, if you see me and see my work every day, and it's not repeating every day, new content, new analysis every day, Nick. And I've looked at it from the 1st of January when Elon Musk, helped explode this. I sat down, looked at myself, and I thought, okay, you now have a responsibility. You've got a duty. You fought for this. Now you've got to keep hammering. And every day I release content. And it's amplified. Other people take it. Some people come up with their own stuff. It's great. It's brilliant because we've got a movement of people. And it's clear to me, the longer we've occupied this space, we've also cleansed this space, Nick. The actual nutcases and the racists and all those extremists, they don't occupy this space anymore because we've done to this what I knew would happen. Once decent people step forward and say, we're not having this anymore, and we present our arguments in the way we do. We're reasonable people, and it's clear what our motives are. I care about children. I care about my country. And these people, those who wanted to push, exploit this for extremist ends, they've been completely sidelined. We've taken ownership of the space, and now we're forcing the government into a position where every time they shout Nazi or far right, and then they look at the array of people before them, they look at the Maggie Olivers, me, whoever else. They think, "Where's the Nazi here? Where's the far right activist here?" It makes them worse, and we makes us stronger.
It doesn't work anymore. Those names don't work. We've got a couple of minutes left. Let's end on this. We're not going to get an investigation, this report that we want out of this government. We know that to be true. They're going to obfuscate as much as they possibly can. And it'll get to a stage where, to gain some credence back, to gain some brownie points, they're going to sacrifice Jess Phillips. The Prime Minister at some point will go, "I'm getting rid of Jess Phillips. The people aren't happy with what's going on. We're going to get someone better." And that'll give him another year with the new person. I think Jess Phillips' time is extremely numbered. She's going to be the scapegoat to gain some more time for this government.
I think that. I also think what will take place, and I'm very clear, this is it's an insurgency in terms of our campaign. The government will do what the government do, and our job is to use what they do to fight back against them. So they will delay, they will avoid, they will play around, and we will use all of that. But I want justice. I believe we will get justice. And I look at the likes of Katie Lamb in the Conservatives, Chris Phil. They've picked up on this. They've developed their understanding of this. Katie Lamb, I admire the young woman. I genuinely do. I think she's future. What if the Conservatives reinvent themselves in our lifetime? She'll be future Home Secretary. Is what I think of her. Reform will use it, and we will get a reckoning. And after the next general election, and this will be one of the key points that wins the general election.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
This will be one of the major issues that actually loses Labour the general election. What we did in Oldham against the Labour Party regime here is what we are now going to do nationally. And there's nothing they can do to stop us, because the only thing they can do to stop us will be signing the death warrant of so many of their own MPs.
Roger, you just cheered me up. You've just cheered me up. We're going to do to the Labour Party nationally what you've done to the Labour Party locally. I can live with that. I can celebrate that. I will give you a round of applause for that one. That's a great place to end this podcast. Roger, thank you so much as always for coming on. And for people who are watching,
thank you. And just I'm in Rochdale on Saturday, so if anyone's around, I'm speaking at one of these events in Rochdale for my friend Billy. I'm in Rochdale on Saturday, so if anyone's free, please come along.
Yeah, so it's Rochdale Town Centre, 2:30. You'll see me and Roger. I'm going as well. I'll be speaking.
He's a good man, Billy, isn't he? And we need to stand alongside the good men.
Absolutely. Roger, I'll chat to you again on Saturday.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.